I love how the Bible talks about Jesus, first of all, as a lamb. And I think about if you know much about sheep, they can't see very well. And so they live in a group because they're not able to perceive distance. They can't really perceive well what is danger. And so they kind of get scared first, and everybody runs together, and then everyone decides it's okay, and then everybody calms down. That's kind of how they live their life. But what's beautiful is that if they have a shepherd, the shepherd does the job of kind of informing the flock what is dangerous. What I love about the Bible is when it talks about Jesus as a lamb, it means that he lived here as an innocent lamb, and he got scared. I love the story of him in the garden before he died, because I appreciate that he was very open and honest about his fear. And I think what he showed me when I read that was that it's okay to be afraid. I think I grew up believing that fear meant that I didn't have faith. But I think fear is more an indication that we are actually walking through the valley of the shadow of death, is what the psalm says. And so as lambs and as sheep, it's normal for us to get scared. And so I appreciate that when I'm praying to a God who has lived fear. And I love that when he was afraid, he turned to his Father. And so he showed us that we can go to God and we can be honest about our fears. I so appreciate that. But then I love, too, how he's also called the shepherd. So what an incredible parallel. Well, not only is he a lamb who understands our fear, but then as our shepherd, he knows how to calm us. And if you study shepherds, I was talking with someone the other day who's a farmer and explaining that you can either handle sheep in a rough way, or if you're gentle and you get to know them, then they learn your voice and they trust you. And so it's beautiful that he calls himself the shepherd who knows your name. So when he calls you, he's not calling you in an aggressive way. He's calling you as your shepherd. He knows you. So he knows what scares you. He knows you personally. And so I so appreciate that. And when he says don't be afraid, it's not in a disciplinary way. It's in a way that you would talk to a child. When my son was younger and I would tuck him in at night, I wouldn't say to him, well, I hope you do better tomorrow. You did all right today, but tomorrow, Or if he said, I'm afraid, I wouldn't say, well, suck it up, buttercup. I got to go to bed. No, I would say, honey, it's okay. If you need me, I'm in the other room. Let me pray over you. Tomorrow's a new day. And so I realized one day, why am I putting myself to bed different than I put, the way I put my son to bed? And so what I love is as your shepherd, he wants to give you that kind of a relationship and be that voice to you. And it says in John that he laid his life down for his sheep. And so he was willing to do whatever it would take to keep you, and he was doing whatever it would take to keep you together. And so one of the things I think that COVID brought out, at least for me and my church family and other believers I talked to, is not only were we under attack, but we were also under attack as far as trying to keep ourselves together. And the truth is we need each other. Isn't it amazing that as Jesus goes to die, he needs the Father and the Spirit to help him? And so if Jesus needs community, I can guarantee that we do too. I don't think that I remember that well. I think I tend to go on the Lone Ranger streak, and then I have to remind myself that I'm actually a sheep and I need my flock. And so my encouragement to you would be to fight for your flock and stay together. And that doesn't always come naturally, not for me anyway. And so that might mean as you think about the people that you're sitting around, the people that you love, do what you need to do to stay together. Being aware that your enemy wants to separate you, because when you are on your own, you're easier to get to. I was watching National Geographic one night, and if you watch those, and I shouldn't watch those before bed because then I feel bad, but you always see the predator goes after the one that it can get alone. You've seen that? And I think we see that. We see that where Satan wants each of you alone. So work to stay together and follow the example of your shepherd. So your shepherd died to keep you, and he died to keep you together. And so thinking about ways that you can forgive each other, you can love each other well. Don't let the enemy decide that you guys are not meant to be together, because I think you are. And so I want to leave you with this. So in Luke 12, it's this chapter about do not worry. And I've read it, as you're a believer, how you read some of these same chapters over and over and over. But I love how at the end, Jesus goes through all the things that we don't have to worry about. And he uses nature and all different metaphors to remind us that he takes care of the birds and he takes care of nature. And so therefore, of course, he will take care of you. And I don't always feel that. But I love how he ends and he tells them, do not worry, little flock, The Lord is pleased to give you the kingdom. And when I think about the kingdom, what I think about is that we're not home yet, so this is a scary place. We will be home someday. And so the idea that while we're here, we're going through this together, but we are pleased to know that we will be going home to our kingdom someday.